We are back with part three of Hypothesizzle, Esports and the Working Adult. Now, let's talk about, let's pose a hypothetical. I pronounced that right, right? Okay,
Yep.
hypothetical, right? So not that we have this insights as to what a working adult is. Now, I'm going to pose you a series of questions about if you were an organization, and now that if we were to look at this and say that this is the evolution of esports, and we're going to look at esports as a decade-long investment, how would you do it? Okay, let's section up into four quarters, and what would you do in each portion?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I guess first off, since we're splitting into 4 quarters, I guess we'll just go into part by part. First will be quarter 1, which is where it's the rise of like esports scene, and you're trying to build up a base somewhere. So for most organizations, I guess they will actually go into a very influencer idol marketing kind of direction where you have to try and create like I guess a figurehead for someone to follow and then to get an attachment to, linking up to whatever games there is, and then from there, we are able to kind of like create some, I wouldn't say loyalty, but like a fandom in a way.
So we're
Yeah.
looking at a 10-year period, right, in which we are looking at a pay of about 7 years and creating and crafting the experience about how these people interact with your brand. And if you're going to say that esports should be something where you look and try to capture people's attention throughout the first 10 years, then we're looking at the first 2.5 years, the first quarter as running it like an influencer idol marketing kind of company, right? Where what
Yeah, I
you
mean,
want is maximum reach, is the maximum number of people to get your eyes onto you, so that as many people know about you, your brand, and the product that you are delivering.
yep, that's pretty much, as you can see, like even some other teams have been doing it through the years, and the results has been pretty great as well, I guess, in a way. Like how TSM does it, where they also did the whole model of the like a superstar kind of group where you have like your favorite player in the group of five, which is why I kind of like linked it in sports pretty close to your idols, where the players are like the idols in a way. But of course, instead of like singing and dancing, they're just very good at what they're doing, which is like the competitive game. So it's pretty much similar in the sense, and then you start to idolize them and you start to follow them, and eventually you kind of somehow just link them more to the brand name more than them as an individual, at least for my case. So like even if like certain players leave, like for example, like I used to be a very huge fan of Darius, but even though Darius like stopped playing competitively at TSM, I was still kind of like just following TSM all the way through the years.
I mean, I'm just examining the language that you're using, and it also stands out to me as a very interesting thing because when I talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
in general, so the younger crowd, they always say that this person is my idol, and you get that a lot from youth, right? This
Yeah.
person so and so faker is my idol, right? But when we talk to like older people, it's like yeah, Ice was my idol. It's like what did he do to let him stop being your idol? It's like, oh no, I just don't follow Dota as much anymore or whatsoever. But they still watch the streams, and in fact, more than ever, these people actually just tend to watch Ice more than they ever did last time. It's just that Ice was a much more impressionable person towards them when they were in their youth playing Dota, because he's like this mysterious Singaporean guy who's down there winning all these kind of random Dota events and stuff like that. I mean, there's like the CAPL, and it's way before my time. I don't remember what they were all called, but it's interesting the language that people use nowadays. That when you're younger, you say that this person is my idol, and then later on you say that they were your idol, but it doesn't
Mhm.
stop you from consuming their content, and
Yeah.
that's what's very interesting. So
I mean partially cause like the people I kind of idolized in the past are kind of retired in a sense as well.
mhm.
Yeah, so maybe therefore there's also a little bit of difference like.
So let's move on.
Yep.
Now that we talked about, okay, so for the first 2.5 years, what you want to do is for these 16 years old, you want them to say that, oh, this player on your organization or this organization, I look up to them, right? It's about influencer idol marketing. Let's call it that way. So in the
Yep.
second quarter, what do we do?
Pretty much more about like tribal affiliation and behavioral shaping. So this is the period where you kind of try and shape the consumers, right? Like, so basically, I'm going back to like the Benny, Joey, and Peter. So you kind of want to like nurture more Bennys and Joeys and trying to avoid people like Peters in the scene, because you don't really want a bunch of Peter coming in to like terrorize. terrorize your community and scaring everyone off in a way.
Well, I mean, I think we
Of
have to be careful about the way we say that, right? I mean, I don't want to set you up for failure over here, but here's the thing: when we talk about behavioral shaping, when we scope out the psychographics, I think in
Mhm.
very large, it also has to do with what's happening in their lives and their relative contentment, right? We talk about Benny is probably in the civil service type of job. We talk about Joey. Joey is probably somebody who's a little bit more higher in terms of like wanting to socialize with an institution because he's probably more tied down with other things as well. And then for Peter, Peter is somebody who is probably experiencing a lot of stress in life. So when we talk about behavioral shaping at this point of time, and we have to realize that these are this is the age at which, like, if we say that we are engaging them from 16 years old, 2.5 years past, they are 18 to 19. This is where they start to move into the army as well. I think that in terms of can we make them Peters and stuff like that, of course you want them as a consumer, as a product or whatsoever, as an organization. Peters may or may not be good for your product, right? Because Peters tend to be the whales as well. They're the guys who go in there and say
That's true.
pay to win.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we have to be careful about the way we say this. But we talked about how can Peter get help, and I think that is about shaping the behavior and shaping the consumer habits in terms of like what's available for them and in terms of what is their association. So you could call them to idolize something, and then after that now is for them to affiliate and develop feelings towards something so that you're able to associate this brand not just with a feeling but with specific types of behavior. And this is why we always talk about needing to define esports clearly. As a consumer of esports, are you someone who plays the game? Are you somebody who socializes through it? Are you just somebody who turns on the game and you contribute to the CCU, but you're just AFK to chat with your friends? And then just see who's online because it's an institution through which you interact with other people as well. And this is where you see the behavior for it. And this is where I think that needs to be emphasized the most because this is where you are seeing the transition as well, where people move from one institution to another as well.
I think this is also the period of time where esports for this case is trying to like build up a positive narrative in a way, so that I mean we do have people with stereotypes and things like that. So this is probably like one of the crucial period where they would like to try and create a narrative to lead to a more positive perception on like scene as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, so now that I talked about that, what do we do? So 5 years have passed. These people are now 21 years old, right?
Yeah. I guess probably more of like a retention period, right? Like if we're talking about product life cycle, it's always about how you hook in these people first, and then you try and retain them, and then you try and like go it go it for a long haul. It's about the long race, not about like the short term goal. So I guess quality is more about like doing more subtension, no, not subtension, more like subconscious retention in a way where it becomes a very subconscious thing to them where they're just continuing to consume it in a way. In a
So I
sense,
mean,
like uh,
I think what you're talking about is like the winter soldier kind of like mind brainwashing that's kind of going on, right? Where you insert these code
oh,
words into the mind, and then
I,
you talk about cable car winter. I don't know what it is, huh? I don't remember the exact things from
I
the
mean,
movie, but
yeah, I mean, not really brainwashing, more like it becomes a very habitual thing, I guess. Okay, I guess that's kind of like brainwashing way.
because what you have to realize is that at this point of time, right, 21, 22, 23, this is where these people they start to go through a systemic change in their life. This is where they fully make the transition from youth to working adult to
Yeah,
young
pretty much.
adult, youth to young adult. Then we talk about the working adult later on, and this is where they start to finish up their tertiary education, be it polytechnics, be it in college, or whatsoever, or they finish their period in army and they come on and they start to find a job. And at this point of time, in fact, what you actually do not want them to be doing is excessively gaming because it is there have been studies showing that like gaming actually is one of the biggest factors that stops people from finding a new job because it provides a sense of like escapism. It provides a sense of it gives them a dopamine kick that just doesn't kind of like avoid the troubles in real life. And what really needs to happen for them is that they actually need to put gaming aside at this point of time, but you need to still keep them as consumers somehow. So you need to be able to keep the trigger with them so that once they found a job, once they're able to stabilize down. And why is this important? Is because why do you need them to make this transition? Is because if you just keep them as viewers, right? Yes, you're going to get like the 1 cent in terms of revenue whatsoever from them, but you can get so much more from it. As we talked about Magic the Gathering, if they always kept it as a kids game, if they never made the transition from rare to mythic rare, the game would not have seen the multiplication in terms of 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in value that it saw.
Yeah,
And
pretty much. Yeah.
this is why it's important that you have to be able to navigate this phase, and it's important for your consumers to make this transition, because once they make this transition, you now have people who are sold into your ideas, see that the behavior into them, you have influenced them successfully, and now they're spending power. So we talk about subconscious retention, and so that
Yeah, I
you're
guess,
able to
and
stay together with them. And this is why it is the hardest phase, because you want to engage them yet not engage them.
yeah, I think this is the very tricky spot. Like even now, I think a lot of organizations are actually experiencing quite a lot of difficulty in trying to achieve as well.
No, I mean, I think Blizzard achieved it really well. You just look at World of Warcraft, you just look at Hearthstone, and
Just like at BlizzCon,
uh,
like people are still going every year, right?
yeah, and then the number of people who go to BlizzCon, I'm pretty sure a lot of them are working adults. So we talked about offline experience and stuff like that. But what happened? So that is the fourth quarter, right? But we talk about experience creation, the fourth quarter. I'm just gonna jump the gun here, like
Yeah,
things like
sure.
BlizzCon, things like conventions and stuff like the offline experience, the world's experience, the tier experience. This is all
Yep.
experience creation for them. But step three is the hardest one, because how do you do the subconscious retention so that people stay with your game? So that if you were a gamer, if you were Benny, right? We go back to Benny. If you were Benny, what would keep Benny playing your game? So that at the end of the day, if TI happens at the same time as Worlds, which happens at the same time as BlizzCon, in fact, the World Championship happened at the same time as BlizzCon,
Yep, that's
which
right.
do you go for? And this is the important thing, because you need to engage them through the mechanisms that we mentioned earlier. This is where Joey comes into play as well, where you talk about the social circles. Joey and the friends, they're not loyal to your game, they are loyal to each other and their social circle. But how can you tag that social circle to your game, product, or organization? And that is a challenge.
Yeah, that's a very very tough challenge. Right. Like if you go to ask me like for an actual solution, like black and white, like a surefire way, I don't think I can answer that as well, to be very honest.
Well, so this is where we turn things to the audience, and thank you for listening to our podcast. And if you want to be a self proclaimed esports guru, you could try your hand at answering this question. How do organizations, teams, or publishers engage in subconscious retention in the field of esports to transition youth into paying working adults? And that wraps it up. I'm Jensen, he's Bjorn, and we were glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me as well.